Welcome back, folks, for a new episode of Leaked. And today we'll cover upcoming premium Tier 8 Russian tank destroyer. It is the KV-4 KTTS. So this vehicle is like the T-28 concept. It is meant to be a heavy tank, but they put it as a tank destroyer. So I guess that's fine, but a little history about the KV-4. The KV-4 was a use when necessary design of the vehicle, but there were 20 different designs for the super heavy tank. So in the game, you have the Kraslovsky version modified with more armor and a bigger gun. So all KV-4s were designed to have the 107mm ZIS-6 gun, but in the game you have a bigger version or upgraded version of the cannon with more armor at the front. So it's based on this version of the tank. But there were 20 different versions of the vehicle, such as ones with Object 416-esque of a rear mounted turret, versions with sponsons like the Churchills. This one looks like a AT or tortoise. Wow, that actually looks like a tortoise in essence, or AT-15. Some looks like a T-35 with a bigger cannon, hull-mounted cannon, like the first Churchill Mark 1s. So this is actually the 107mm with a 45mm on the smaller turret, or 76mm. And some looks like the Japanese heavy tank, the Type 4 or Type 5. So there were a lot of versions of the KV-4, and today we'll talk about the tank destroyer version, esque, with a rear mounted turret and small mini turret on top, as you can see right here. Now I put the names of the different authors or designers in the pictures, so I'll try not to pronounce them because I'll probably fail. But as you can see, this version of the tank of the KV-4 is pretty much a rear mounted version of the KV-4. So they use it as a tank destroyer. The size is about the same. So it's not a traditional tank destroyer, but more of a assault cannon or breakthrough tank. So play this thing like a Ferdinand or Yak Tiger, Yak Panzer E100-esque of a vehicle. This thing might be even bigger than the KV-4. Wow. And here is the gun constraints. As you can see, I modified the picture. So this tank has an asymmetrical gun arc, like the French AMX 13 F3 artillery. So getting used to this gun arc is rather tricky. So that's quite interesting. But yeah, not a lot of stuff is known about the KV-4 designs because there were like 20 different versions of the tank. The best armor they have is about 130-ish millimeters, so they were more fitting to Tier 7. But yeah, Wargaming buffed this vehicle to 200mm of armor with a better gun than the 107mm that's on the T150. Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting tank destroyer for the Russians. And here are the HD renders of the KV-4 KTTS. Now this vehicle is basically a rear-mounted KV-4 with a superstructure and a fixed-mounted gun, so it's more like a Ferdinand or Yak Panzer E100. Play this vehicle like a tank destroyer mixed with heavy tank, so assault gun in essence. Don't play this thing like a sniper. It's not going to do well because you're slow, you have armor. Might as well play this thing like an assault gun. But the main reason that KV-4s were designed but never built was because they were resource intensive and the need for them never arrived. You could just zerg people down with T-34-85s, and they were building IS-2s at the same time, so KV-4s were redundant and they were superfluous in need. So yeah, take too much time to build one of these when you can build like 5 T-34-85s and just go Wolfpack with them. But it's a gigantic beast of a tank destroyer or heavy tank. It reminds me of the T-28 concept, but it doesn't have the machine gun boobs on the sides, so it's not as ugly. Oh well. And here are the collision models with earlier models of the tank. So you cannot see any details, but oh well, it's black. But as you can see, the armor of this vehicle is pretty good for a Tier 8 tank destroyer. It's like the Ferdinand. The superstructure is very strong, 250 millimeters with a very big mantlet, so it's hard to penetrate this superstructure like the Ferdinand. The frontal plate is 200 millimeters with 175 for the lower glacis. Rather okay, so that's fair. It's like the Ferdinand, but it doesn't have the weak side parts on the Ferdinand, so I guess that's alright. A better shot on the superstructure, so it's well sloped for the cheeks, 125 millimeters. You will bounce a lot of shots. This is about 200-ish millimeters effective, so pretty good. The top mini turret is also well protected, so that's good. Side shot of the side armor is rather decent, 125 millimeters. So this is a rear mounted vehicle and you can just side scrape with it. So play this thing as an assault gun and side scrape with 125 millimeters of side armor. It's better than the E75 at tier 9, so that's a very big plus. Now it's not as good as the 150 millimeters on the actual KV-4, but what can you expect? It's a premium tank, you make more credits, so all's fair. And here are the main stats for the KV-4 KTTS. Now it's going to be a premium tier 8 tank destroyer, so it's going to cost you around at least 8,000 gold. So a pretty penny for this vehicle. Has 1200 hit points, which is quite good, very chunky for a tier 8, but it's not crazy good like 1400, so be cautious. 1200 horsepower engine for 100 tons of weight. It's very heavy, so don't go ramming this vehicle, and it has 12 horsepower per ton ratio, so you could ram stuff going down a hill. It's almost KV-5 in terms of weight and ramminess, but KV-5 has 14 horsepower per ton ratio, so this thing is a little bit slower. Top speed is 35 kilometers per hour, reverse is 10, hull traverse is 30 degrees per second, which is decent, better than some heavy tanks at tier 8. Gun traverse angle is 60 degrees. Terrain resistance is 1.34 for hard, 1.43 for medium, 2.68 for soft. So this thing will get bogged down pretty often. So that's really bad. View range is Russian, 350 meters. Yeah, it's like the heavy tanks at tier 8, like the KV-4 or IS-3. Radio range is 375.4 meters at tier 8. This is really bad. This is like tier 2 or tier 3. Yeah, that sucks. So if you're by yourself in the front lines, you cannot call for artillery support if they're all the way across the map. So that's really bad. It has 200 millimeters on the front and 125 for the sides and rear on the hull. So that's pretty good. Superstructure is 250 at the front, 125 for the sides and rear. So this thing is slightly better than the Ferdinand because side armor is thicker. It has a 107mm gun with 227mm of penetration, 320 alpha per shot. That's average penetration because the average or good penetration for tier 8 tank destroyer is 250-ish. So 227, that's average. Alright. Damage is 320, below average. The average is around 400. So DPM is 2441. You could go up to 2600, 2700 with a gun rammer and vents, but yeah, it's below average in comparison to the ISU, the T28 prototypes, T28, Rumtel Borsig, so yeah. Well, it has armor, so that's a trade-off, I guess. Accuracy is 0.345, decent for a Russian gun. Aim time is 2.88 seconds, a little bit slow. Gun depression is 5 degrees, elevation is 20 degrees. So this thing is basically a slower KV-4. Slower because of the terrain resistance, but we have to check And the radio is god awful. I don't know what to think about this vehicle. It's strange. And let's compare the KV-4 KTTS with the Ferdinand. So armor wise, I think it's it's not the same. The superstructure is only 200 millimeters? I thought it was 250. I'm so wrong. Wow, that sucks. So armor wise, it's pretty much better on the KV-4 KTTS. Side armor is better, 125 in comparison to 80. The front is more uniform, so you don't have the weak side cheeks or the lower plate. And the superstructure is 250 on the front. So then the Ferdinand. Wow, armor wise, wow, that's surprising. But the Ferdinand is smaller, so artillery would love to shoot at the KTTS. We can compare the size with the KV-4. So the Ferdinand is obviously smaller, yeah. So artillery would love to shoot at this thing than the Ferdinand. That's fair. It's smaller, I guess. Blah. So let's take a look at the other stats. Health wise, it has the same health, so above average. That's good. Power to weight ratio is about the same and close to the average. So that's pretty decent for such a heavy tank. 100 tons, whereas the Ferdinand is only 66 tons. So yeah, it's not that bad for such a heavy vehicle. Huh. Alright, hull traverse is 30 degrees in comparison to 21. This thing turns faster than the Ferdinand. Shocking. Faster top speed by 5 kilometers per hour, and below average though, so it's a assault gun. What did you expect? Reverse is the same. Terrain resistance is better on the Ferdinand for hard terrain, but for medium and soft, it's better on the KTTS. It has better mobility than the Ferdinand? With better armor? Shocking, alright. View range is Russian. Oh god, this sucks. And the radio range is Tier 2. Or Tier 3, but that's really bad. 375 meters of radio range. You cannot call for artillery support. Yeah. That's super bad. Oh boy. Oh, let's take a look at the guns. So, penetration wise, below average penetration. So it's more of a better heavy tank at Tier 8. That sucks. And DPM is average. I thought DPM was below average, since you can get like crazy good DPM on the ISU, or the T28 prototype, or the Romtel Borsig. But yeah, it's average DPM. I stand corrected. What the frick? Let's take a look at the Romtel Borsig. Is it because my crew is so good that I have like 3000 DPM? I don't know. What's going on? What happened? Did stuff change? The prototype has a crazy good DPM. What? Alright, I stand corrected. That's average DPM. Okay, I sound like a noob. Sam, you don't know what you're talking about. Alright. Mistakes were made. But still, the Ferdinand has better DPM by a little bit. Alright, that's fair. But the penetration is really lacking. Accuracy is below average, but 0.345 is not that bad. It's alright. It's Russian gun, so I expect like 0.38. Fair. Alright. Aim time is quite long though. 2.88 seconds. And not as crazy gun depression like the Ferdinand, so only 5 degrees. But this thing is actually faster. Somewhat faster based on the trade-off between horsepower per ton ratio and the terrain resistance than the Ferdinand. But that's 5 kilometers per hour faster and 9 degrees faster for the hull traverse. What? That's crazy. I mean, I love the Ferdinand. This thing is crazy good for assault gun, but the side armor is pretty crap, as well as the side of the superstructure. However, on this vehicle, it has 125, which is better than the E75 side armor. You can take a look at the E75. Yeah, Tier 9 heavy tank has 5 less millimeters on the side armor. So, ick. But it's not as good as the KV-4. So KV-4s have 150 with super thick tracks to cover. But this thing has super thick tracks as well. Oh, armor-wise, it's not that bad. Mobility-wise, it's not that bad. Radio-wise, that sucks. And the final opinion about the KV-4 KTTS is that this vehicle, it's a premium tank destroyer, so if you're penetrating, you'll probably make a lot of credits. But you have to be in the front lines because the radio, 375 meters of coverage. You have no artillery support if you're by yourself, and light tanks will have a hard time telling you like different stuff. So that radio, man, I mean, give it like 600 or at least 400 meters or 450-ish. But yeah, 375 meters is tier 3 levels of coverage, which is crap. But armor-wise, if you're by yourself, armor-wise, it's pretty decent. It's a rear-mounted vehicle, so side scraping with 125 millimeters of side armor, that's very good. And the mobility is covered, so it's better than the Ferdinand in some essence. It's slightly faster, turns faster, with better terrain resistance for medium and soft terrain. The power to weight ratio is close to the average, so that's fair. And this thing is heavy, 100 tons, with more health. So is it worth buying for, say, 10,000 gold? I don't know how the radio will change stuff, because normally you don't look at the radio. Like if you have a dead radio operator, you just don't even heal him, because whatever. So, but 375 meters of radio coverage, is that going to be a problem? That might be a problem, but I don't know, it's hard to say. Well, view range is KV-4, so if you already play a lot of Russian tanks, their view range is alright. It has armor, so stick to buildings, yeah, you'll be fine. Stick to corners and don't stand in the open field and you get spotted for like half a map away. Gun is pretty decent. Average DPM. Accuracy is good for Russian guns. Aim time is slightly long, but you could have a vent to help with the aim time, or enhanced gun lane drive, if you will. Penetration is a little iffy, but if you manage to penetrate tier 10s, you'll probably make a lot of credits. Gun depression, 5 degrees. Russian, it's fair. It's not supposed to have like 8 degrees of gun depression. That's way too good, like a Ferdinand. So, is it worth the 10,000 gold? Yeah. I mean, I think we'll have a better time with the SU-12244 or the well, you cannot buy the SU-85i. So, it's not like the SU-100Y, but I think you'll have a better time with the SU-100 or SU-12244 because that thing could play as a assault gun based on the armor, or you could play as a sniper-ish. Whereas this thing is more fitted to assault gun. You cannot play this thing as a sniper because the radio and the accuracy is decent enough, but aim time is a little bit long with the penetration. So sniping with this vehicle is not to its strength in essence, but it's fair. So if you like the Ferdinand, you probably would like this vehicle. So if you know how to play heavy tanks, you'll probably like this vehicle a lot. But thinking back to Russian tank destroyers, you do not have specifically designed assault guns like the Germans. So Russians have 2 tank destroyer lines with the ISU, or big caliber guns, for one of them, and the snipey camping type, the SU-100M1s for the next one. So both of them are snipey. They don't use armor in essence. So having an armored vehicle for a tank destroyer is not in the same ballpark as the other Russian tank destroyers. So having repair skill is not a requirement for Russian tank destroyers. So having this vehicle is, yeah, it's not fitting in essence. So if you want it, you could buy it, but it's going to be weird. That's what I'm trying to say. But a quick shout out to Giganot. Can't pronounce his name, but he's the guy who did all the renders for the KV-4s that you saw earlier. So he's also the guy who did the render for the VK 101P, the Mammoth, as well as the Czechoslovakian tanks. So quick shout out to that guy. But thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Rozkwitały jabłonie i grusze, popłynęła ponad rzeką mgła. Ku brzegowi szła Kasieńka błoniem, ku brzegowi wysokiemu szła. Ku brzegowi szła Kasieńka błoniem, ku brzegowi wysokiemu szła. Ku brzegowi idąc pi śpiewała o stepowym orle z ponad skał. O tym, kogo bardzo miłowała, czyje listy chowa niczym skarb. O tym, kogo bardzo miłowała, czyje listy chowa niczym skarb. Oj, ty pieśni, piosko, ty dziewczęca, w ślad za słonkiem jaśniącym śpiesz. Żołnierzowi z pogranicza dźwięcznie od Kasienki pozdrowienia nieś. Żołnierzowi z pogranicza dźwięcznie